Всім незламним потужного ранку.
Good morning. On the 18th, according to the same rank. Good morning.
Good morning. There's an offensive on Chernihiv, apparently planned from the Russian side. And we'll talk about that today, including a lot of interesting things from other regions, like, for example, replacing Russian gas and other fossil fuels with supplies from Azerbaijan for Europe. Europe seems to have found a solution after all. But before we start, please subscribe to this channel and let's get started. Now, regarding Chernihiv. Here we have the opinion of a certain General Kryvonos who had a falling out with Zelensky and now forcefully and stiffly talks about everything. So, he knows that 370,000 draft notices have been sent out in Russia, which means that the Russians are planning to attack Chernihiv. That's how it is. Kryvonos believes the Russians are preparing a new offensive and even cancelling Russian armed forces leave. He stated this in an interview with a certain project and said that mobilization is planned for the fall and could expand Russia's military actions to the Chernihiv region. And now he will tell us about all of this in order.
And two more details. Since July 28th, leaves have been cancelled.
But General Kryvonos, as you know, knows how to speak Ukrainian. It's almost native, natural, about the same as Zaluzhny with English, that very British English. And he uses different words, instantly adapting and correcting himself.
The armed forces of the Russian Federation and other ailing bodies of Russia. This is always one of those telltale signs that something serious is being planned for the coming months. First, second, Russian draft offices have already handed out 370 to 380,000 draft notices to citizens of the Russian Federation.
A little digression.
There you go. So there can be no doubt. An offensive on Chernihiv. Not soon, I'm telling you, fellow Ukrainians. Kryvonos stated, in case you didn't understand, that as of July 28, leaves have been cancelled in the armed forces of the Russian Federation and other law enforcement agencies of Russia. I don't know why the armed forces are considered law enforcement agencies according to journalists. Don't ask me about that. I have no idea. Maybe you know. Share your answers to this difficult question in the comments. But Kryvonos believes that this is the first sign that the Russians, or Ruskies, as Zelensky says, along with their talk about whether planes are flying and whether they'll bomb, are planning something serious in the coming months. Here with me, this bird is also amazed by this statement. This is Juan. I live in Spain, so the bird can't be called anything other than Juan. And he, along with us, dear viewers, is impressed by what's happening here in these places. Whether they're familiar or not, it's up to you to decide. Then he states, not Juan this time but Kryvonos, that Russian draft offices have already handed out 370 to 380,000 draft notices to Russian citizens. Over the next 2 months, there will be an additional call-up of that many people. And that means people will be involved in forming new military units or replenishing losses in existing ones. In addition, he, that is again, not Juan, don't confuse Juan with General Kryvonos, states that he always considers all issues from the perspective of the worst-case scenario for Ukraine. And that's why he's sure that 370,000 is an impressive number. Well, as if we had any doubts. So, 370,000 soldiers. It's obviously an impressive number, considering that the Ukrainian forces are about 800,000, including all sorts of rear personnel, fighters, and everyone else. And here, right away, 370,000 fighters will be put under arms. Juan is just shocked. He's pacing, trying to process what was said. Write what you think about Juan, in general. Yes, that's how he is, with his wonderful little hat, yes. That's why, again, this General Kryvonos says that the Russian Federation exists and is striving to destroy Ukraine as long as it exists. We, that is General Kryvonos, and we together with you, dear viewers, will be under threat. But there is a way out of this situation. Here again, Juan mentioned that there is laser weaponry in Ukraine. You see, Juan's eyes are not like laser weapons. They're looking in different directions. That's because he's seen too many death rays. And with these death rays, flying planes to bomb doesn't work because everything gets shot down. The General Staff announced the use of laser weapons in the war. Here, some artists have illustrated this very AI thing. The picture has all sorts of strange things, especially this distant drone, which is really amusing. As I understand it, it has some kind of odd shape. But the AI, that is artificial intelligence, clearly couldn't handle it. Before publishing something like this, they should have laughed and taken a look. But then for some reason there's also the Aurora Borealis, the moon, and some mountains and clouds. It's impossible to tell where tall mountains rise above the clouds in Ukraine. But we have Andrei Lebedinko, he's the Deputy Commander-in-Chief. Commander-in-Chief of Ukraine's armed forces. He stated that such weapons are already successfully shooting down FPV drones. That's just amazing, because shooting down drones over the mountains, yes, above the cloud cover. That's the minimum. I mean, the troposphere is somewhere around about 600 meters to a kilometer above the Earth's surface. And of course, there are clouds even higher. There are those silvery ones that exist in the stratosphere, but the mountains break through all of that. The Ukrainian mountains break through everything. They are located on them. Presumably some kind of laser stations that shoot down those very drones that are flying who knows where. It turns out that Ukraine is developing projects related to laser weapons. That's what this deputy said. Projects related to the weapons of the future are being implemented. It already exists today. So that's how things are. And Juan confirms it too. He flew, saw it over the mountains, also in those very clouds. He saw lasers, he saw everything. Like C-beams at the gates of something, I forgot. How was it? Well, anyway, if you remember, leave a like. This weapon is already capable of shooting down FPVs today. It's already working against Shaheds. And this is a matter of the next 2 or 3 months. We, says this very deputy commander-in-chief, will soon have the same kind of equipment that will allow us to counter aerial threats even better than machine guns. Apparently before this, drones were shot down with machine guns. I'm a bit out of the loop, but I digress. Digression. But probably that's exactly how it is. They did show some attempts, though. I watched a few videos where they tried to shoot something down with rifles and machine guns. But overall, the success was so-so. It's similar to economic growth in many CS countries now. There is growth, but it's negative. Everything is rapidly declining. Lebedinko also emphasized that the system for generating innovation is like an assembly line that needs to keep moving. And the next step is the development of modern systems and weapons. Juan and I discussed this issue here and neither of us understands. If this weapon already exists, how can it be developed again? So, if it already shoots things down, if it exists, why is the second stage now called the development of modern systems and weapons? Then it turns out there are also information systems and new types of weapons. In general, there are a lot of plans for all of this. So you could say Ukraine is saved. And then suddenly, Germany and Azerbaijan burst into our cozy broadcast. Partaginos and Protagonos merged with Ilham Aliyev. And it turns out that Azerbaijan actually does. No sarcasm, there really are a lot of natural resources that could make up for the shortage currently on the market. You will be surprised by the amount of those very fossil fuels and their derivatives like gasoline, diesel, gas and other such things. Germany and Azerbaijan, unexpectedly for everyone, confirmed their mutual desire to deepen bilateral partnership and cooperation based on mutual trust. For example, Juan and I trust each other, and this is the kind of bilateral cooperation that can't be overcome, can't be broken or destroyed by anything. Apparently, things are about the same between Germany and Azerbaijan because this is even mentioned in the statement published on Tuesday, July 21. Following the meeting between German Chancellor Friedrich Merz and Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev in Berlin. Germany intends to purchase more gas from Baku in the future. Since, as they say, we stopped receiving gas from Russia 4.5 years ago, we have naturally been looking for new sources of supply. And here Azerbaijan plays a new important role. Recently, Protagonos Merz reported that he finally found the root of Germany's economic problems. You won't believe it. It's exactly the reduction of cheap energy supplies from Russia. Honestly, I always have great respect for smart people, and when it comes to brilliant minds, I even feel a certain reverence. And Merz is the kind of thinker we apparently haven't seen since Leonardo da Vinci. And to analyze the most complex situation that developed in Germany for 5 or even 6 years, and finally to understand that the rising costs of production tools, consumer goods, and in general the inertial system of Germany's economic lag that has developed recently. All of this is precisely the result of refusing inexpensive energy resources from Russia. Moreover, Merz publicly stated that perhaps this was a mistake. So he is a genius, an unrecognized genius of our world, of our time, and maybe of all time. So don't make fun of Mertz. This isn't just some petty pickpocketing. I'm a good thinker, he's good at everything, a brilliant person, just like that. So what? Should I drink because of these differences? They plan to implement diversification of energy imports in Germany. And overall, this very process must be diversified and also include hydrogen. Why hydrogen? Don't ask. Maybe to refuel with hydrogen? Hydrogen-powered Toyota? There are a few of them, but for some reason it's already needed. But a separate paragraph of the joint declaration states that both Berlin and Baku will ensure the continued work of the German-Azerbaijani high-level working group on trade and investment in order to promote development. But further on in general, there are a lot of very smart words and a hard-to-translate play on words. How did they translate all of this and for what purpose? In short, if everything works out, Germany and Europe will really get access to not so expensive resources. Azerbaijan really has a lot of them. Oil, gas, and other energy resources that Azerbaijan is capable of supplying in fairly large volumes. The only problem is the construction of the pipes, the pipeline. But you can't just transport all of this with those ships that have LNG storage. You can't just move it or ship it across. Yeah, it's pretty difficult. You can't even fly it over, as Juan tells us, so you have to do something. But that's not the most interesting part. That's about energy resources. But then suddenly information surfaced that there had been contacts between German and Russian politicians in Baku. That is, the most interesting thing is that Merz doesn't know about this. He himself stated it. So it's outside of Merz's field of view. Certain figures from Germany are meeting with certain figures from Russia through the country's border service. According to him, he didn't say this for nothing. The guy is smart, so he doesn't say anything just like that. The country's border service recorded the simultaneous presence of well-known German and Russian politicians in Baku. He didn't specify which ones, but I think it's not that hard to figure out. But German Chancellor Merz stated that they don't know anything about this meeting? Well, that's how it is. The leader of the country knows nothing about what's being done behind his back by his subordinate. A wonderful leader. Again, a brilliant thinker. A God-given analyst. Respect and admiration. Azepi. Juan is shocked. According to Aliyev, on July 12, former Prime Minister of Brandenburg, Matthias Platzek, and former head of the Federal Chancellery, Ronald Pofalla, arrived in Baku. On the same day, former Prime Minister of Russia Viktor Zubkov and the chairman of the Human Rights Council under the President of the Russian Federation, Valery Fadiv, also arrived. One could exclaim, same old familiar faces, but they talked, then left, and we didn't even have to analyze who came, for what purpose, and why. We were told about everyone already. But Merz continues to say that he knows nothing about this meeting, and emphasized that Germany, together with its European allies, is trying to encourage Vladimir Putin to negotiate an end to the war. As we can see, negotiations are underway, but now regardless of what Merz is doing, this includes FK, Carlos, Kolosi, Ursula, and von der Leyen-Kacek. What kind of napkins and vines are they adopting there? So apparently everything here is already moving towards some kind of common denominator, maybe a shared one, or maybe they just talked, chatted, sat down and cried, as the true Ukrainians say. But it's not just that here, but it's not just about the denominator, maybe a shared one, or maybe they just talked, chatted, sat down and cried, as the true Ukrainians say. But it turns out that it's not just Germany that's leading these negotiations, which, by the way, he wasn't aware of. There are also similarities among the Portuguese, Dutch, and Germans. At the same time, Rubio also explained why the US needs dialogue with Moscow and confirmed a meeting with Lavrov. So, what does that mean? He, she, what? Rubio looks into the distance with a tired gaze. Nevertheless, his colleague reports that on Thursday, July 23, a meeting with the US Secretary of State is planned. That's actually today. And the talks will take place on the sidelines of the summit. ASEAN, whatever that means. In Manila, the capital of the Philippines, let me remind you, two great boxers once fought. The gorilla from Manila, I think that's what one of them was called. And the second one was Ali, our famous, well, not really ours. He's American, but still, it's cool. Anyway, they were all there and barely survived. Okay, let's not get distracted. According to Lavrov, the meeting is scheduled for the first half of the day. The US Secretary of State also confirmed the contact and said that not having a conversation with Moscow would be reckless and irresponsible. He also added that the war in Ukraine prevents the US and Russia from reaching agreements on other issues, but Washington is aware of everything and expresses readiness to bring it all to an end, plus everything else that we have here. But NATO has problems. The thing is, it's limited by all sorts of legal documents, which in general, Juan is also quite well informed about, as he is about all other issues as well. The Montreux Convention sets these Montreux restrictions which limit NATO's capabilities. It has been in effect in the Black Sea for 90 years and still shapes the balance of power in the Black Sea. Against the backdrop of the war between Russia and Ukraine, the question arises whether NATO can increase its power in the waters. Access is restricted, but the answer is not really. And finally, probably the last thing is that the French Parliament supported a ban on social media for those under the age of 15. And that means, dear citizens, that soon we will have the opportunity to show our passports, ID cards, various numbers, and other identification documents. But simply because you have to jump through hoops to prove you're not underage. You can use social networks, but your data is already with the government and your account is being tracked. Under the watchful eye of Comrade Major. I don't know what Comrade Majors are called in Germany or France, but they have some name there too. And they have the same watchful eye as Comrade Majors from all those post-Soviet countries. So they counted everyone like in that one Soviet cartoon, and they counted you too, but now it's been a long time, and of course they counted me as well. Now let's see what's going on with our powerful leader. And they're ready to report on everything here. And one of them, to everyone's shock, is Matka Dronev. She hasn't been around for a long time. What a wild queen. Dronev suddenly showed up here in a frenzy, and she burst out in Pskov telling all sorts of things. Let me remind you that she's pulled these heroics more than once already. For example, once she posted information publicly about the location of a drone conference, and right after that the conference along with the drones and the visitors of the conference and exhibition were bombed. But the drone queen isn't to blame for anything, and now she is wearing these intense glasses. I'm not sure what kind. Maybe they're AI. I had similar ones, by the way. Those actually had internal screens, but the lenses were semi-transparent, not optical. You could leave them optical, but anyway, anything is possible. The drone queen wearing these glasses looks intense, though it's not clear where she's looking, and of course she's got a green military shirt and a little green t-shirt on.
And so that's my attitude towards the constitutional manifestation of democracy. I believe
that some young people in the background apparently want to go to the front and are waiting until they turn 24, but by then they'll be able to wave flags. It's really independent as long as they're not shouting gay, shouting helium with cardboard signs. Protesting Fedorov's dismissal seems to be the main issue, and now this very drone queen is also protesting Fedorov's dismissal. Volny, not Fedorov, was at one time also an advisor to Mikhail Fedorov. Apparently they're protesting too. In short, everyone is protesting, but it's a joke. I came to that beat. It's a healthy trend.
This is one of the factors that sets us apart from Russia. Can you imagine something like this happening somewhere in Belarus or somewhere on Red Square?
And if it's just that, with young people waving flags, well, yes, that's great, but they're waving flags, shouting, beating drums. This undoubtedly immediately raised citizens' awareness of their rights and freedoms. It improved the economy, and it improved quality, and most importantly, once again, it raised the standard of living for the citizens of Ukraine. But you can't imagine something like that happening in Belarus or Russia, can you? Says Matka Droni, and at the same time she smiles mysteriously. It's a street smile. It will probably go down in history.
I'm definitely not smiling. Why should I even stay positive? And we still have the mindset to just wave it off.
At the same time, cardboard pieces are lying on the lawn. Apparently some people have already been here. She went home, but for the drone queen, the cardboard pieces are still lying around anyway. This is an information campaign and bits of information that apparently need to be absorbed. Some guy is walking around the benches, rummaging around again in that sweater. You can see him from the front. What is he doing? It's absolutely impossible to understand, you see, but you can't see him. I'll fix everything now. Just give me a moment.
Mikhail Albertovich Fedorov had the opportunity in his position only in that technological advantage.
So where was this guy? I'll show him to you. Here he is. He's picking something up there. Mikhail Albertovich Fedorov. He picks something up and puts it in his pocket. Apparently he also put some little tidbit of information in there. Mav.
The opportunity in the position, I could push Ukraine's technological advantage. I think that's the right thing to do. Mikhail Albertovich, objectively, efficiently, I know his strengths.
Can you repeat it again like 5 times? Mikhail Albertovich, Mikhail Albertovich, Mikhail Albertovich, Mikhail Albertovich, Mikhail Albertovich. Mikhail Albertovich, I think that's 5 times, just in case, one more time, Mikhail Albertovich. And Juan and I are shocked at how many times you can use the full name and patronymic of this former Minister of Defense in a single video. Ah, but the drone queen knows what she's doing. A prepared person, talented in everything. Roku.
We have worked together many times. He is, without exaggeration, a strategic architect of Ukraine's technological advantage. You can't just throw people like that away.
However, they did throw him away, and that means Matka Dronev is probably criticizing Zelensky. Oh my god, Juan and I exclaimed. It's almost impossible to understand. How can you criticize such a powerful leader? What's wrong with you over there? Well, in general, I think you understand the direction this is all going, so we have time to think it over. And, well, goodbye everyone.